Hey Raiders, Jacko here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we are going to be going into and attempting to answer a question that just about every free-to-play player is going to have to make on a pretty continual basis. And that is, do I attempt to get the Fragment Summon or the Fusion Summon champion? So, this video will find you a few days into this event, but we've got a 2-week event here going to get a Fragment Summon for Yoshi the Drunkard. I apparently can't talk today. Should have done some mouth exercises or something before we started this. Anyways, Yoshi the Drunkard is a new Shadowkin champion, so they put in a whole new faction, and Yoshi is part of that faction. So what is a Fragment Summon? So there are two main types of summon events that happen. There are Fragment Summons and there are Fusion Summons. Now, Fusion Summons is what we just had recently, where you do events, you get rares or epics, you level them and fuse them into bigger guys who fuse into the legendary. Pretty simple. It's the same process that Razin is. Razin's a permanent fusion, however, it's easier to get the champions because they're in the events. Pretty simple. A Fragment Summon is very much the same thing, except instead of getting champions out of the events, you're actually getting fragment pieces. When you get up to 100 fragment pieces, you can summon Yoshi in this case. Now, here are the events. We've got a Summon Rush, Champion Training event, 2 Dungeon Divers events, 2 Artifact Enhancement events. Out of these, the Dungeon Diver events are easy peasy. You're probably going to get the fragments out of those without even really trying, just by doing the other events. The Champion Training event, that is going to take a lot of energy to get your fragments out of. Well, worth it, because you're also working towards getting your champions pushed up in rank and everything. The Summon Rush is the sucky one. That is money. It's getting champions. So pulling your Ancients, your Voids, and your Sacreds, and your Mystery Shards. So that is very dependent on how many fragments you have and whether or not you're going to spend money. So for us free-to-play players, Summon Rush, and then down here at the Champion Chase tournament, which is the same damn thing, those are going to be our sticking points. So we need 100 fragments. There are, 20, 35, 40, 50, 60, 75, 90, 100, 110, 120 fragments we can get without getting first or second place on any of the tournaments. So 120 fragments, and those are 35 of those fragments. So we're going to have to get fragments out of a Summon Rush or a Champion Chase of tournament, no matter what, if we want to go for it. So that's something to think about. Do you have the shards to do that? If you don't, look at it at the beginning. Don't waste your resources. Resources are hard to come by. And when I'm talking about resources, I'm talking about your gems and your brews for leveling people up for the Champion Training event and things along those lines. So those resources that you've hoarded. Artifact Enhancement events, pretty simple. You got the money, you got the fragments. Easy. Champion Chase event, just like the Summon Rush. Champion Training event, just like the Champion Training Tournament, just like the Champion Training event. You're going to level people up to get it. Having those essentially back-to-back is kind of difficult, in all honesty. That's a lot of leveling to do. Dragon Tournament, Ice Golem Tournament, Fire Tournament, Spider Tournament, those are easy ones. If you're running at least level 13, you probably won't have to put many gems into getting them. I think when I got Iron Brago, I put less than 100 gems to max all 4 of those out. Classic Arena takedowns, those are actually pretty easy, and I have a trick for that, and we'll come to it in just a second. So those are the events, and you get to see them beforehand. You get to see how many fragments are in each of them, so you can gauge whether or not you're going to go after this particular champion. For me, I am, and the reason for that is I didn't go for the fusion last time. I just blew it off completely. So I have a ton of gems saved up. I have a ton of silver saved up because I've been waiting to use the silver on my artifacts for those specific events, just waiting to do it. I was happy with where I was in certain places, so there wasn't any reason. So let's take a closer look at some of the tournaments and events that we have up currently. So tournaments, we've got the Dragon Tournament and we've got the Classic Arena Takedown. So with Dragon Tournament, essentially all you're doing is collecting artifacts out of Dragon, and each artifact, number of stars and rarity, will give you a certain number of points. You're trying to get up to 1800, so just keep hitting dragons. You're going to use the artifacts anyways, might as well get some reward out of them. We've got a Classic Arena Takedown. Now the trick here, and this is kind of interesting, so you've got to get up to the max number of points, which can sound intimidating, but if you put one person in your defense, like a common or something, and just let yourself get racked all the way down to copper 1, you can use all of your tokens every day to pump yourself up, and you're going to win almost every time. And winning is what gets you the points. Now, if you look here, depending on what tier you're in, you're going to get less and less points. If you're in gold already, ignore this advice. Don't do it. You're going to get plenty of tokens to max yourself out if you're in gold already. So if you're in gold, don't do this. If you're in silver, it depends on how much you can win. But if you're not, if you're struggling to kind of stay in silver or get into silver, then take the hit, go all the way down to copper 1 so that you can win as many of the battles as humanly possible every day. That's how I get through these Classic Arena Takedown events, and it works beautifully for me. In the actual events section here, we've got a Dungeon Divers event, if I remember. Yep, a Dungeon Divers is the only one, though that artifact enhancement is coming up. You see, we got to get up to 2,000. Dungeon diving just for today in Dragons got me, 400%, so 20% of the way there, and I've got 3 days essentially more. So I'm going to have to put some more effort into it, but due to the update, I had way less time to use my energy than I usually do. As you can see, I've still got 400 sitting here. So there you go. Those are the questions you have to ask. And for me, if we go and look at Yoshi here, he has no place in my setup. Attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a stun. Attacks 2 enemies at random for a decreased accuracy and an HP burn. His only real ability that interests me is Battle Toast. Increase attack, increase accuracy, which is the part that interests me, and has a chance of True Fear if the enemy's already buffed. And then a passive here that he fills his turn meters. Speed in battles is nice. So for me, he just doesn't fit in. The only reason I'm going for him is that I've got so many resources saved up that I can get him in case he's buffed down the line or he's really good for a specific niche for me, and still be able to compete in whatever they bring out next, the next Fragment Summon or the next Fusion. So that's why I'm saying yes to Yoshi, even though he doesn't fit in my group. Now, every time one of these comes up, you're going to have to make that choice. Is this champion worth the resources I'm going to have to spend? And as a free-to-play player, we have to hoard those resources for when these events come. So we're essentially denying ourselves use of those resources other places to get that champion. Is it worth it? For me this time, yes, just because I've got a plethora of resources. For most people, most free-to-play players out there, I would say step away from Yoshi. I don't think he's a good enough champ as it stands to really impact your progression in the game. Now, for the aesthetic review here, this request comes from Aiden and is Jintoro. I am not a native Japanese speaker. I have probably butchered that name. However, he is in really extremely good armor. I'm very impressed. So, starting at the feet here, he's actually in tabi. Tabi are those split-toed kind of moccasin kind of things. With shin guards here and everything. I mean, actually greaves. There we go. There's the word. So he's got tabe. He's got greaves. He's got these baggy pants that go into the greaves. This is very, very accurate. And it's using red, which is many Asian cultures a color for luck, using red cording, which is also very accurate here. He's got a little bit of knee protection. Hopefully there's something under the leggings there as well to really protect the knee. We come up with a beautiful drape. Looks like some metal in there, possibly some leather. So there's some weird things about leather and Japanese armor, and that has to come with the fact that it's dead flesh. Generally, dead flesh is taboo. However, you do see it in armor sometimes. So, do in-depth cultural research on Japan about this subject to really get an understanding. I have not done enough to really understand why the leather is okay in some situations, but is taboo in other situations. It's complex. Anyways, besides that, the drape is beautiful. He's got a wakizashi here at the front. A little bit of an odd placement for it, but it works. You can still grab it pretty quickly, and since he is using a two-handed blade, having that backup is really nice. The number of kings and princes I have killed after losing my greatsword because I had a dagger on me is staggering. In fact, I named the dagger Kingslayer at one point because of it. It was a hysterical thing. Full chest plate, probably made out of metal or some such. Again, the lacing is accurate. It's well positioned. Honestly, it looks like this could have been pulled off of a display in a museum. It's incredibly well done. I'm very impressed. The hands and vambraces are incredibly accurate. We talked about this when we looked at the undead, I'm going to say Chinese warrior. The covering on the hands, that's accurate. No protection on the fingers. That is accurate for the culture. That's perfect. The upper arm pieces, nice studded cloth or leather. Surprisingly, this is accurate. This pauldron is accurate, but it should be moved around to the front just a little bit. And the horns would probably not be there. They're going to get in his way. But otherwise, his pauldron again off the back, that is not accurate. Those should be moved around so they're actually down along the arm rather than kind of hanging off the back. That's a very strange stylistic choice they went for that I don't agree with. The helm. The helm is shockingly accurate. Even the horns. There are many examples of samurai helms that have these really big headdress pieces. I assume in the trained fighting style of samurai, so kendo, in particular, there aren't any real strikes that move your blade over your head. I know there are some that start up there, but because they start up there, they're not really going to get in the horns and such are not going to get in his way. He's got a beautiful mempo here, very scary. The mempo's the face piece, my apologies. Very scary. The tusk pieces are a little overstated, but it's a fantasy video game. So the rolled pieces of the side of the helm there, also incredibly accurate. This is amazing. And he's got flame coming out of his helm, so you can't argue with that. He's probably some sort of Oni or demon in there anyways. All in all, for his armor, I am shockingly impressed. This is one of the first people we've come across in this game who's 90 to 95% accurate in their armor. So I'm going to have to give Jintoro here a 5 gourd. Looking at his weapons, he's got the wakizashi, but what we're really interested in is this giant two-handed, spiked blade, barbed katana. So because it is so long, it is likely a dai katana. We talked about that when we talked about the undead guy whose name is just skipping out. But because it's two-handed, it's a dai katana instead of a katana. It's got a proper guard. The handle length is gorgeous and properly wrapped for a katana. There's not much else to say about it. It's glowing blue. It's probably soul or ice magic. I haven't read his skills, so I couldn't tell you precisely on that, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Given that he's got the wakizashi back up, I'm going to have to give our samurai here his weapon a 5 gourd. Badassitude, samurais are always scary. They are a pinnacle of fighting in a lot of people's minds. Now, strangely enough, their fighting style doesn't hold up all that well against non-samurai fighting styles because of how linear and how much motion, forward and back motion there is. A lot of styles that can that train circling have a much easier time with samurai than samurai have with other samurai. That being said, they're still amazing warriors. Their armor is always beautiful and intricate and tells its own story about the person who's wearing it, at least for the higher echelons of samurai. As such, and given the flames or spirit magic or whatever that is coming out of him, he's going to be an absolute morale killer on the battlefield for his enemies. He's going to just destroy their will to fight. So Badassitude, we're going to give Jintaro here another 5 gourds. All in all, he is so close to perfectly period and accurate. It's amazing. There are little things here and there. A true expert in Japanese armor could probably pull apart all the little things, but from a knowledgeable base, he is immaculate. He's great. Overall appearance, he definitely gets a 5 gourd. I am shockingly impressed at Jintaro here. All in all, I love the looks of the Shadowkin, though I have one huge annoyance here. Why exactly, with all the armor and kimonos and flowing garb that they could have done for the female characters, did they just go with skin-tight suits and flesh? I mean, this drape on Konoru? Nah. This drape on her, if it had gone all the way around, would have been a beautiful piece of armor, and then she would have just had to have, something up top. Why? Why did they do this? You can make female characters who are in full accurate armor who are still absolutely gorgeous. It's not that hard. Be creative, Polarium. You can do it. But you didn't. You just fell down on the job. I mean, come on. Anyways, rant over. Thank you, Aiden, for the suggestion on Jintaro. And I hope this has helped you gauge whether or not you should go for particularly this shard summon or any shard summon or fusion event in the future. If you have any tips or tricks on how you decide whether or not you want to spend your hard-earned resources on one of these events, please put them in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed the comment, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. It does help me out in the long run. And go ahead and watch the shorts. They're fun, they're brutal, they're entertaining little aesthetic pieces, and they're less than 60 seconds, so why not? Anyways, thank you again, and I'll see you next time on Jacko's Raider Rants.